Welcome back, folks. Today we are going to talk about item types, and we're going to talk about how item types relate and enhance the Sabre ETO add-on that Sabre has created. Within this video, our goals are going to be to understand the purpose of item types, where to access the item types, how they're used, and how we can do error tracking on them. So let's start with the purpose of item types. So within Sabre ETO, we've given the ability to be able to import a bill of material from Excel. So this bill of material might have been created in SolidWorks or your AutoCAD software. Maybe you just created the bill of material manually inside of Excel, but rather than having to do that data entry twice and rekey in the items and the quantities and the vendor numbers and the dates that you want them, we've given the ability to take that, as long as you've put it into the template that we require, and import that into the planning lines to again minimize that duplicate entry. So during that import process, we wanted to give the ability to indicate rules for those actions. So one of the things that we've identified is, do we want to have the item created if it doesn't exist, or would you want the system to give you an error that indicates that that item doesn't exist, have the user stop, and then go manually create the item number if that's the desired approach. If they've decided that they do want the system to automatically create an item number for them, then we've given the ability to be able to set up defaults for these items that are going to be created. So as an example, you'd be able to indicate what you want the base unit of measure to be. You could indicate a preferred vendor. You could indicate posting groups that you want. So when you get these items created for you, there's less backtracking that you have to do to go back to the item card and then fill in the gaps and fill in the additional information that you need for those item cards. So you have the ability to create different item types for the import. So if you had raw materials that you wanted created in pounds, if you had raw materials that you wanted created in inches, if you wanted certain items to not create at all, you would have the ability to set up these unique item types, and then during your import you're going to tag the line with the item types so that you could, again, tell the system what those rules are. So where do we find the item types? Inside Business Central, you would search for Inventory Setup, which is a screen and a page that's already there. But under the Process button, you'll find a new icon or a new button there that says Setup ETO Item Types. So this will actually bring you into the page where you can set up what your item types need to be. You can set up that default information, and you can start building those rules. So if we look at the item types here, we'll see that on that page here we have the item type column that gives you the ability to identify, which you will use during your import to be able to add that to your lines. You have the Boolean there that indicates whether or not you want the system to create you a new item if it can't find the item number that's on the line within your current Business Central system. If that is turned on, then obviously it will create. If it's turned off, you will get an error on import that will let you know that the item is not there. And you'll see here, these are just some standard Business Central columns. You've got your inventory posting group, costing method, general product posting group. So again, these just indicate when it creates that new item for you, what should these values be when it creates the item. So it acts really a lot like an item template, and it populates these fields with this data so that, again, when those items are created, it's less backtracking that you would have to do to go to that item card later and backfill some of the information that is missing. So on your Excel import that you're going to create, you're going to have a column called Item Type Number, and that is where you are going to reference the item types that you have created inside of your system. And you would be able to indicate, so on the raw lines, it's going to use the create item. It's going to use the defaults that have been set in my setup window. The raw pounds, again, it's going to use the create item setup that I have if the item doesn't exist, and it's going to then use the unique template or field values that I have indicated on that line. So how does this look inside the application? So again, we're going to use our search button. Inventory setup is where we would set these item types up. So I've clicked on Inventory Setup here, and again, under Process, you will have Setup ETO Item Types. So from here, I've indicated the three that we just saw in the PowerPoint there. If I wanted to turn on or off creating items, I can do that. Here, I can indicate an additional line if I want to. Perhaps I want that to be recreated. So of course here I can just select the defaults that I want, and then scrolling over I can continue to add my additional information, whatever it may be. So if we see how these item type works in action, so I'm going to search for my items list, and I'm just going to show you guys how I do not have an item created in my system that is going to be part of my bill of material import. So I can see here I do not have that as part of my items list. And if I open up my import file, I can see that I've got this item as my first item there. I can see that my item type number is raw, and you guys will remember that on my raw line I indicated that the system can create me a new item number. So I'm going to go into my jobs. I'm going to open up my job card here. I've got this sample task line, which is called my material import. It's a BOM task line, so it has all the additional Sabre ETO functionality enabled. Under Manage, I'm going to go to what's called my BOM planning lines. And again, this is a new screen that we've created that's got additional functionality within it. So I don't have any lines that have been created. So under Actions, Functions, I'm going to go to BOM Import. It's asking me which template I want to use. We go into more detail on the BOM import in another video. I'd love for you to watch. I'm choosing my file, I'm selecting my import file. It analyzes my data, and it imported the lines. So you'll notice this first line here, my 1596599, was not in my system originally, but part of my item types, part of the rules that I created, the system created it for me. So if I now go and I search my items again, as we can see, because it is on a BOM planning line, marked item, obviously the item is there, but if we search, we can now see that that item card was created for us. It's using the base unit of measure and any other item type column template information that I've selected. So in this last section here, we're going to talk a little bit about errors. So again, as part of my item types, I can indicate that I do not want the system to create a part number for me automatically. I could have the system stop me at that point, give me an error, and let me know that that item number doesn't exist as an example. So how does that look? So within the application, I'm going to go back into my inventory setup. And I'm going to go into my ETO item types here, and I'm going to create under this raw line, I'm going to turn off that I want the system to create a new item if it doesn't exist. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my job card, and I'm going to again try and do my BOM import function. Same steps I followed before. Material import. If I do another import, it's just going to append the lines. And again, we get into more of that BOM import functionality in another video. So I'm choosing the import file, and again, I have intentionally added an item to my import file that I know does not exist inside my Business Central. Errors found, please review and click OK to continue or cancel to exit. So if I say OK here, I can see that row 2, the item does not exist for this value here. So if I say OK, the system's going to import what it can. And if I say cancel, the system's going to then stop my import, not import anything. So we typically tell people at this point, click on the cancel button, don't import anything, and then manually go create the item card and try your import function again. As always, thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions, please reach out and contact us using the contact information here.